Dan Marino was born on September 15, 1961, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the heart of Steel Country, a city known more for toughness than glamour. His family was working-class Italian-American, built on grit, loyalty, and quiet determination. His father, Dan Sr., worked as a newspaper delivery truck driver by day and coached Little League baseball in the evenings. His mother, Veronica, held the family together with warmth and structure. From an early age, Dan showed signs of rare athletic ability. He had a natural gift for throwing, an arm that could launch a baseball across a diamond and a football across a field before most kids his age could lift the ball properly. Growing up in the rough-and-tumble neighborhood of South Oakland, Marino developed his competitive edge in the streets, driveways, and empty lots where kids made up the rules and toughness was the price of respect. He idolized local sports heroes and played football, baseball, and basketball with relentless intensity. By the time he reached Central Catholic High School, he had grown into a tall, strong-armed quarterback with an unteachable feel for the game. Coaches noticed the way he commanded the huddle, the way the ball zipped out of his hands like a missile. He wasn't just good, he was different. In high school, Marino became a Pittsburgh legend. He led Central Catholic to a 9-1 record as a senior and drew national attention as a five-star recruit. But baseball also loomed large. He was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in 1979, but Marino turned down the offer. His heart was set on football, and his decision brought him just a few miles away to the University of Pittsburgh, where he stayed close to home and took over as the Panthers' quarterback. At Pitt, Marino wasted no time making an impact. He became the starter as a freshman and quickly showed why the hype was justified. In an era dominated by conservative, run-heavy offenses, Marino was airing it out. His quick release, fearless reads, and uncanny timing made him a nightmare for defenses. By his junior year, he had thrown for over 2,800 yards and 37 touchdowns and led Pitt to an 11-1 record. In the 1982 Sugar Bowl, he orchestrated a last-minute comeback win over Georgia with a legendary touchdown pass on fourth down. The throw was pure Marino, fast, precise, and impossible to defend. He finished his college career with over 8,500 passing yards and 79 touchdown passes. But his senior season was inconsistent, and rumors about attitude and off-field habits began to swirl. When the 1983 NFL draft rolled around, Marino, once projected as a top pick, slid down the board as 5 other quarterbacks were taken ahead of him. With the 27th overall pick, the Miami Dolphins, led by legendary coach Don Shula, took a chance on Marino. That decision would forever alter the course of NFL history. Shula had built dynasties with the likes of Bob Griese and Earl Morrall, but Marino brought something entirely new, an arm that defied physics and a swagger that felt inevitable. He didn't start right away, but when he did, it was instantly clear this was not your average rookie quarterback. By the end of his first season, Marino had thrown for 2,210 yards, 20 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions in only 9 starts. He was named to the Pro Bowl, the first rookie quarterback to be selected since 1970. But it was in his second year, 1984, that Marino exploded into superstardom. That season, he threw for an unprecedented 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns, both NFL records at the time. The numbers were absurd, especially considering the era when defenses were allowed to play more physically and passing was still secondary to the run game. Marino was reinventing what quarterbacking looked like. He wasn't mobile, didn't rely on scrambles or option plays. He beat you with timing, anticipation, and an arm that could deliver the ball into windows no one else dared target. The Dolphins went 14-2 and cruised through the playoffs to reach Super Bowl 19. Marino had become a cultural icon, featured in commercials, magazine covers, and late-night TV. Miami was electric, and it felt like the beginning of a dynasty. But the Super Bowl didn't go as planned. Facing Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers, Marino and the Dolphins were overmatched. The 49ers' balanced attack and dominant defense contained Marino, and Miami lost 38-16. At just 23 years old, Marino had tasted both the thrill of greatness and the sting of defeat on football's biggest stage. No one imagined it would be his only trip to the Super Bowl. Over the next 15 seasons, Marino continued to dazzle. He threw for over 4,000 yards 6 more times, led the league in touchdowns 3 more times, and became the fastest player to reach every major passing milestone. He set the all-time marks for passing yards, completions, and touchdowns. His favorite target was the speedster Mark Duper alongside Mark Clayton, forming the Marx Brothers, one of the most explosive duos in NFL history. Marino's quick release became the stuff of legend. He could drop back, read the defense, and get the ball out in under 2 seconds, negating even the most aggressive pass rushes. He also became known for his fiery leadership. Marino was intense, demanding, and held his teammates to the highest standards. He wasn't afraid to get in someone's face if a route was run poorly or if the effort wasn't there. But he earned respect because he gave everything he had, every practice, every game, every snap. He was never carried by a great running game or elite defense. In fact, the Dolphins often lacked both. The team relied heavily on Marino's arm, and he carried them through season after season with little help beyond his receiving core. In 1994, in one of his most iconic moments, Marino faced the New York Jets. Down by a touchdown in the final seconds, he rushed his team to the line and signaled for a spike to stop the clock. But instead of stopping the play, Marino faked the spike and threw the game-winning touchdown. It was brilliant, deceptive, and completely Marino. That single play defined his craftiness, confidence, and flair. Despite multiple playoff appearances, Marino never made it back to the Super Bowl. Some blamed coaching, others pointed to a lack of team depth. Marino never pointed fingers. He played with injuries, adapted to changing offenses, and remained the face of the Dolphins through good seasons and bad. As the 1990s wound down, his body began to betray him. Knee, shoulder, and Achilles injuries piled up. In 1999, after a disappointing playoff loss to the Jaguars in which Miami lost 62-7, Marino decided it was time to walk away. He retired with 61,361 passing yards, 420 touchdown passes, and more than 4,900 completions. At the time, all were NFL records. He had been selected to 9 Pro Bowls, named first-team All-Pro 3 times, and awarded the NFL MVP in 1984. And yet, the ring had eluded him. But Marino never let that single omission define him. He had changed the game. He had redefined the position. He made passing the centerpiece of modern football. In 2005, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. His speech was filled with emotion, gratitude, and pride. He thanked his coaches, teammates, family, and fans. And though he acknowledged the absence of a Super Bowl ring, he emphasized that football is about more than trophies. It's about passion, consistency, and love for the game. Off the field, Marino became a symbol of class and giving. He founded the Dan Marino Foundation in 1992 after his son Michael was diagnosed with autism. Since then, the foundation has raised millions to support children and young adults with special needs. Marino also became a beloved football analyst, working with CBS and others, bringing his insight and dry wit to millions of fans each week. In Miami, his number 13 jersey was retired and his statue stands proudly outside Hard Rock Stadium. For all his records and accolades, perhaps Marino's greatest legacy is how he inspired generations. Young quarterbacks grew up watching him flick his wrist and launch perfect spirals 50 yards downfield. He made the impossible look routine. Players like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees have cited Marino as a key influence in their development. He showed that the quarterback could be the centerpiece of the game, not just a manager, but an architect. He played with elegance and fury, with brains and bravery. Dan Marino was never defined by rings. He was defined by excellence. By the way fans held their breath every time he dropped back to pass. By the way defenses feared him, and by the way he brought hope to an entire city for nearly 2 decades. His name is etched in the record books, but more importantly, it's etched in the memories of those who witnessed his greatness. From the steel town of Pittsburgh to the sun-drenched stadiums of South Florida, Dan Marino's journey was one of brilliance, perseverance, and enduring impact. He didn't chase the crown. He built a throne of his own with his arm, his fire, and his refusal to be anything less than great. That's why, even without a Super Bowl ring, Dan Marino will forever be one of the greatest quarterbacks the game has ever seen.